2.3, multiplication with fractions and the area of a triangle. Multiplication of fractions. When multiplying fractions, we multiply straight across. That's the only rule, for the most part. And then typically we will get to, but we're not there yet, but we'll simplify as well. So the first one, we're gonna do 3/5 times 2/7. We're gonna multiply 3 times 2 and 5 times 7. So it'll look like this, 3 times 2 and 5 times 7. Multiply 3 times 2 is 6, 5 times 7 is 35, and we're done. And the next one, we have 3/8 times 5. So we have 3/8 times, and the 5 is really 5/1. So we're gonna multiply across 3 times 5 and 8 times 1. 3 times 5 is 15, 8 times 1 is 8. On example 3, typically we do parentheses first. So we're gonna focus on a half, and we're gonna do 3 times 1 over 4 times 5. So that means we have a half, and 3 times 1 is 3, and 4 times 5 is 20. We're then gonna multiply across again. So we get 1 times 3 and 2 times 20. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4, so 2 times 20 is 40. And I'm done. Let's look at multiplying and simplifying now. So again, you're gonna multiply straight across, that's the first rule, and then the second rule is simplify. If you do it in correct order, where you can follow, there's different rules where you can cancel and simplify, we'll practice a couple of those. So we have 15/8 times 4/9. In the first one, we're gonna multiply straight across like we talked about. 15 times 4 over 8 times 9. Now what I notice is I could break this 8 down, and I could break this 9 down, and I could break this 15 down. 4, I could break down, but I don't have to break it down. So we talked about that earlier in the simplifying fractions part. So I'm gonna break 15 into 3 times 5, and I'm gonna leave that 4, so times 4. And then I'm gonna break down my 8 to 2 times 4. So not all the way prime factorized, but close, because I know those 4s are gonna cancel. And then the 9 I can simplify to 3 times 3. So now we can simplify. We have the 3's to cancel out and the 4's to cancel out. So we're left with 5 on top, and 2 times 3 is 6. Another technique that people have learned is the cross cancel method. This is where cross cancel comes in. So if you know cross cancel, 15/8 times 4/9, here's how it works if you don't know. What you're gonna ask yourself is, what can I divide into both diagonally? So I can divide by 9 and divide by 15 by the same number. What number is that? I can divide by 3. And when I do, I'm gonna get the answer of 3. But I have to do the same thing up here as well. So I'm gonna do this as well here. 15 divided by 3 is 5. I'm gonna do now the 4 and the 8. What can I divide both of them by? I can divide by 4. It has to be the biggest number possible for this to really work well. And then I'm gonna do the same thing down here. I'm gonna divide by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then you multiply across. So now I'm gonna do 5 times 1 and 2 times 3, and I get the same answer, 5/6. I'm gonna show both methods every time so you can start to get in the habit of doing it both ways. So I have 9/2 times 8/18. I know that 9 and 18 can be divided by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1. 18 divided by 9 is 2. Now I'm going to do the other diagonal. I know that 2 and 8 can be divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Multiply across. I get 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. Now I know 4 divided by 2 is 2, and I'm done. Or I can break it down. I have 9 times 8 when I multiply straight across, and 2 times 18. I'm going to break what I can down. I'm not going to break the 9 down because I know on the bottom it's 2 times 9 for 18. So the 9 will be canceled out. But I want to break something down for that 8. So I'm going to leave the 9 there, and I'm going to break that 8 into 2 times 4. So now I can see the 2's are going to cancel, the 9's are going to cancel, and I'm left with, again, oh, look at that. I have 4 over 2, or 2 times 2 over 2, where that cancels again, and I'm left with 2 over 1, or just 2. On the last one, we have 2 times 6 times 5 over 3 times 5 times 8. I recommend when you have more than 2 that you fill it in as one set before you break it all down and try to cross cancel, because cross canceling with this can get ugly. So I know the 5's are going to cancel, and I know that the 6 has a 3 in it, and I know that the 8 has a 2 in it, so I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to have 2 times, I'm going to break the 6 down, 2 times 3 times 5, and I'm going to have on the bottom 3 times 5 times, and I'm going to break the 8 up, 2 times 4. So the 3's cancel, the 5's cancel, the 2's cancel, and I can actually break this down again. So I have 2 over, I'm going to break it down to 2 times 2 for this 4. So this set cancels, and I'm left with 1 over 2. I could have also just left it as 2 over 4 and divided by 2 here to get the same answer of a half. Okay. Let's continue. On example 7, we have 3/4 to the second power. 3/4 to the second power is like saying 3 over 4 times 3 over 4. Or 3 times 3 over 4 times 4. 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 4 is 16. When I look at that, I am simplified because there's nothing I could do to simplify these any further. Do the same thing with 5, 6. I would do your exponent first. So I have 5 over 6 times 5 over 6. And then if you want to, you could throw this in right now, times 1/2, but you don't have to. I notice on the top, I have nothing that's going to cancel with anything on the bottom. So I'm just going to multiply all the way across. 5 times 5 is 25, times 1 is 25. Now I know 6 times 6 is 36, but I'm not really sure what 36 times 2 is in my head maybe. So you could always go the other way. 2 times 6 is 12, and 12 times 6 is 72. So if you couldn't do that in your head, you can always go backwards. What is half of 2/3? Of, this word means multiply. We mentioned it before once, but this is a reminder. Of means multiply. So I have half of 2/3. Let's write it on one line. 1 times 2, because I multiply straight across, and 2 times 3. The 2's cancel, and I'm left with 1/3. Same thing with example 10. I notice that I have 3/4 of 12. So 3/4 times 12, and we're going to write 12 over 1 because we know that a whole number is always over 1. We know of means multiply. We're going to write it out. 3 times 12 over 4 times 1. I know I can break this 12 into 4 times 3. So I could cancel the 4's, and I'm left with 3 times 3 is 9 over 1, or just 9. As I've shown here, there's lots of different ways you could do it. Again, you could cross cancel. 3/4 times 12 over 1. Here's your cross cancel. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 is 3. And 3 times 3 is 9. And the last one we're going to look at is distributive property. When we're looking at the distributive property, we apply the distributive property, then simplify. So I made sure I labeled that very clearly here. So distributive property is multiplying the outside number by the inside. So what is 6 times 2 plus what is 6 multiplied by 1/3? We know 6 times 2 is 12. That part's not too hard, but we need to think about this. So we have 6 over 1 times 1/3. I'm going to cross cancel. 3 goes into 6 2 times. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 1 is 1. So I'm left with 2. So 6 times 1/3 is 2. I'm going to add those two together. 12 plus 2 is 14. An example 12, we're going to distribute again. 12 times 3/4 minus 12 times 1/2. So we're going to set it up 2 times. We have 12 over 1 times 3/4, and we have 12 over 1 times 1 over 2/2. So I'm going to cross cancel. 4 divided by 4 is 1, 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 3 times 3 is 9 over 1 would be 9. Subtract, that's going to come down. I know 2 goes into 12 6 times, and 6 times 1 is 6. And so I would get 6 on this side, and 9, take away 6, is 3. And we have area of a triangle to finish it off. So area of a triangle, the reason why we focus on this in this section is because it starts with a fraction. So let's review really quick. When multiplying with fractions, we always multiply straight across, okay? When we're simplifying those fractions, when we're distributing those answers, we wanna make sure that we simplify the fraction with that part and then simplify and subtract. That's multiplying fractions. When you have the area of a triangle, the equation is area equals half times base times height. Or they say area equals half BH. This is a very important equation. I'm going to write it even bigger because, again, this equation will be something you have to memorize. And why is this? Well, it's because if you're finding the area of a rectangle, we know that the area of a rectangle is length times width, or in this case, length times width, which is base times height. And then all I'm doing is I'm going to cut it in 2. I'm going to divide it by 2 or split it in half, multiplying by 1/2. Okay, so let's look at one example. We have find the area of a triangle in figure 3. So we have our base is going to be 10 and our height is 7. And I always write my equation to practice memorizing it. A equals half times base times height. And then I'm going to substitute my numbers in using parentheses. So I have half times my base, which was 10, times my height, which is 7. And I'm going to multiply straight across because I know these are over 1. So I'm going to multiply straight across, and I'm going to get my area is 70 over 2 And 70 divided by 2 is 35 inches squared, which is the answer. However, there's another way to do it. What you could have done, and it will take a lot less time, is if you start by writing your equation, you substitute in your numbers, and then you think, what is half of 10 or half of 7? Pick one, you don't do both. Half of 10 is 5. So I crossed off those 2 and I wrote 5. I know the half of 10. If you don't know the half, then don't do it this way. And then I know 7 times 5 is 35. 35 inches squared is my answer. Let's try it with example 14. So we have the area equals half times base times height. I know the base is 8 inches of this triangle and the height is 11 inches. I'm gonna do A equals half times 8 times 11. Do you know half of 8? You should be saying, yeah, I do. So half, cross it off, of 8 is 4. And 4 times 11 is 44. And this was inches again, squared. What if it's a fraction though? I'm gonna throw this one at you. What if we had an extra example? What if the base of the triangle was 26/3 feet and the height of the triangle was 6 feet? What would it look like then? Let's try our formula. Area equals half times base times height. Area equals half times 26/3 was my base times 6. So I'm gonna rewrite it because I know that I have fractions in here and I can kind of work on those fractions. So I have 1 times 26 times 6 all over 2 times 3 times 1. And I know that 2 times 3 is 6, so I could cancel those out right away. Let's fix that. So I have 20 and the 1's cancel. So we're gonna just focus on the 26 times 6 and 2 times 3 is 6. These cancel and I end up with 26. Kind of funny, right? I could have done the math, 26 times 6 and then divided by 6, but why do that if I can see that those numbers are gonna cancel? Be aware of your options. And this is 2.3 multiplying with fractions and the area of a triangle. Again, make sure you know your formula.